to further this conversation and to also look at the broader implication to all of this back and forth between the federal government and the end bad governance protesters. Joining us from Ibadan is Isiaka. He's a public affairs analyst and SDG advocate. Thanks so much, Honorable, for joining us on the program tonight. Can you hear me, Mr. Saka? Hello, Mr. Saka. All right, we'll try as much as possible to get him back here in the program to give us his own take and the part, because it looks at all of this concern. When you look at the treason, government are saying treason, the crime you are betraying your own country. And there are those that are feeling that the minors that have been arrested by government are not capable of carrying out such move. But in all of that, we'll try as much as possible to have a balanced conversation and that, and knowing how better some of these issues can be managed and resolved within the government level, because we must begin to tackle some of the issues we have in the country and how we can enhance the democracy in the 21st century. There's a need for participation, and how do people participate is that they can also criticize the policies of government where it's not comfortable. They can also speak out their mind, but in tandem with the law. We highly condemn every actions and attempt to, scuttle the government of the day. But what are the people saying? What are the voices? What are the questions? What are the demands? What are the expectations of the Nigerian people? All of that has continued to be at the front burner, and the cases we are trying to extract as much as possible on the program tonight. We'll try as much as possible to get Mrs. Isiaka joins us very quickly on the program. For now, let's get to go on a break. We'll be returning with him on the show. Just stay with us.
Insightful idea that takes the center stage and the conversation that gets beyond the headlines to explore the lasting impact of political decisions. Big Talk got you covered. From policy debates to geopolitical insights, from thought-provoking discussions to actionable insight.
What is the real responsibility of government?
Big Talk delves deep into the heart of the matter. Join us weekdays on global televisions from 6:30 p.m. for a reverting journey into the heart of politics.
Many thanks, everyone, for still staying with us on the program. Joining us down, he's Isiaka. He's a public affairs analyst and SDG advocate. Thanks so much for connecting with us on the program this evening. Very quickly, there are a whole lot of concern about the treasonable, allegations against the protesters of the End Bad Governance protests. Some of them, many that sparked the very controversies, is the fact that some of them are minors. How do we begin to substantiate this in the country when you look at the fact that on the other end, government are saying that they committed treason, which is a law against the country. On the other hand, they said the protesters were on the street to protest because of hunger. How do you balance this, Mr. Isiaka?
Good evening, and thank you for having me. Well, the events of that took place in the courts recently, where we have children and minors being paraded to be arraigned for treason and all of that, for me is the most unfortunate event in our time, in our country. And it is something that speaks to our understanding of the condition of Nigerians is something that speaks to our government's perception of what a child is and why a child should be accorded the kind of protection, or why not the child should not be afforded the kind of protection they deserve. For me, when I saw some of those clips and those videos, it makes my heart bleed that we could have a country where we could subject children to such a very, very cruel situation. Most of those children are very malnourished. The condition in which they were kept for the past 3 months has been a very deplorable one, and anybody can really tell that it is not the best of time for our country and for this government. I think the government also must redeem its image, because for me it is very, very bad publicity PR for this government. The government must redeem its image by doing everything possible to make sure that those children are taken back to where they were picked up from. Now, talking about treason, you mentioned. You see, what is treason in itself? You might want to ask yourself. And who is committing what? You are talking about children of the age of 14, 15. These are children who are supposed to be in school. These are children who, by virtue of the Universal Basic Education law, they are supposed to be on compulsory basic education. And it is a failure on the part of the Nigerian state not to have granted these children the compulsory education they are supposed to have, and they are left to roam on the street. So for me, I think the government has a duty to educate these children, to provide for them, and to take care of them, and not to subject them to the kind of things we saw in the past few days. The government has a duty to redeem its image in the sight of Nigerians and the international community.
All right. I mean, there are very salient issues on the ground where you look at the fact that one of those that is fueling all of this is the prevailing economic situation in our country. That those that are paying attention closely to look at if policies of government, can begin to show light, how should people not really have to lead to protests. The organizers of the protests have even threatened that it looks that if this is a threat for people not to protest, it looks that they are just getting started, that more protests will hit the street if government does not pay attention to the silent issues and the concern. Yes, we've seen that the Attorney General of the Federation is making moves to see how he can begin to pay attention to the kids by reviewing all of that and seeing how some of them can be free. But he should not in any way, elude the issues on ground, the economic hardship in the country. How, within your assessment, would you say can this go in a country's democracy? Because it looks that if people are saying we are calling for military takeover, if people are saying people lifted Russian flag, which is a threat to our own country's existence, what should be the way forward, and how should government begin to pay attention in addressing that?
Okay, you see, government has a duty to investigate. A child of 12, 13, and 14, most of them, if you ask them where is the country called Russia on the map of the world, they do not know where it is. Don't talk of knowing what the flag is all about. It tells you that some people are engineering this process, this protest. These children are being used as pawns in the game of some people. It means that there are people who are engineering this whole process. So government has a duty to investigate. These children are not the ones that are guilty of this offense. These children are being used. And government has a duty to identify who are those behind all of this. And I ask the question also, the protest you talk about, what was it all about? It was about bad governance, it was about hunger. Now, we must not shy away from the fact that in the past 1 year, this country, many more people have gone into poverty in this country. And the hunger in this country is biting harder by the day. Many more Nigerians go to bed without food today. So these are facts that we must come to terms with, and they are real issues, and the government must address that. Now, talking about those who are talking of staging protests and all of that, I do believe personally there are a lot of political undertone to most of these protests that goes on. When you talk about protests, you have an organic protest of Nigerians when they decide to reject a government or they decide to reject the policy of a government. There will be an organic protest. But when you start having a protest where you fix a date and you fix a point to gather and you fix a process and all of that, and people are flying flags, these are organized political processes that are engineered by either foreigners or Nigerians who are aggrieved one way or the other. So government has a duty to investigate and to identify the people who, the culprits behind this, and prosecute. Those are the people that will be prosecuted for treason, not the children that are being used because they are not being taken care of and they are not being provided for by their parents and by the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
All right, thanks so much, Mr. Isiaka, public affairs analyst and SDG advocate. Thanks so much for spending some of your evening with us on the program. We do hope to have you back on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Do have a pleasant evening.
All right, all of that is beginning to... And that was the conversation we had earlier with Isiaka. He's a public affairs analyst. A whole lot of concern regarding that, as I earlier stated, how we can begin to pay attention to the demands of the protesters, the demands of the Nigerian people. It looks at what of the prevailing situations is economic the hardship, and there's a need for government of the day, for the federal government, the state level, and even at the local level. With this adventure of local government autonomy, people must begin to feel the essence of government. They must begin to see how they can address and cushion the effects of these hardships since the removal of fuel subsidy and the floating of the naira, which has continued to spark, conversation, criticism, and a concern among the Nigerian people. At always, we advocate that democracy will always be the best and always stand for the best, and there's a need at all time that we must advocate for that. The war, attempt to scuttle the government of the day might not be the right way to go, but we'll continue to engage the government and for government on their part to continue to deliver the dividends of democracy to the people. That's the size of a conversation on Big Talk, which was a very peculiar issue that we needed to address tonight. It looks like the president is ready to swear in the new ministers that were just recently appointed. We'll keep on tracking these stories and bringing you some of these developments. Would appointing and bringing new ministers on board solve the situation? That's the question Nigerians are asking. Would that address the economic hardship? Will we begin to see good things? Would lives, and the hardship being reduced and the poverty in the country, drastically dropping? That is the silent questions many Nigerians are asking, not just appointing the new ministers. What are the jobs and what are the tasks ahead of them? Tomorrow on the program, we're looking at all of that concern in the country here on the program Big Talk. My name is Sidikan Michael. Thanks so much for joining us today. See you again.